The desert was deceptively calm at first, the horizon stretching out in endless waves of golden dunes, beneath a glaring sun that seemed indifferent to the lives it scorched. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood atop a ridge, scanning the vast expanse with sharp, unyielding eyes. He had learned to read the subtle signs nature offered: the sudden drop in temperature, the faint rustling of sand, the way the distant sky shifted in color. Today, those signs spelled danger. Leila Hassan approached silently, her footsteps muffled by the soft sand. "Jonathan," she said with urgency, her intense eyes fixed on the horizon where an unnatural haze was beginning to rise. "A storm, a big one." Jonathan nodded, his jaw tightening. "We need to find shelter fast." The team was already on edge. The relentless desert heat had worn them thin, and their supplies were dwindling. Yet nothing had prepared them for the suddenness of the gathering storm. Within minutes, the sky darkened, the sun swallowed by thick, swirling clouds of sand that moved with terrifying speed. The wind howled like an ancient beast, carrying with it the bitter taste of grit and despair. "Alina, make sure everyone has their masks and goggles," Jonathan commanded, his voice steady but urgent. Marcus helped Leila secure the equipment. Dust whipped fiercely, stinging exposed skin and filling the air with a choking haze. The team scrambled, their movements frantic yet practiced, a testament to Lila's expert guidance and Jonathan's firm leadership. They erected a makeshift shelter from tarps and the remains of their gear, creating a fragile haven against the storm's wrath. Inside the cramped refuge, shadows danced wildly as the wind beat against the fabric walls. Faces smeared with dust and sweat exchanged worried glances. Marcus adjusted his glasses, his usual skepticism replaced by a grim acknowledgement of their predicament. "This desert, it's alive," Marcus muttered, voice barely audible over the storm's roar. "It doesn't forgive mistakes." Jonathan met his gaze, a flicker of understanding passing between them. "We're going to get through this. We have to." Outside, the storm raged on, relentless and unforgiving. The fabric walls strained under the assault, and the ground beneath them trembled with the force of nature unleashed. Jonathan's mind raced not just with survival tactics, but with the weight of their mission. The lost oasis was close, tantalizingly within reach, yet the desert had reminded them of its merciless power in the harshest way possible. Hours passed like an eternity. The team huddled together, finding strength in their shared vulnerability. Stories were whispered to calm frayed nerves. Leila recounted legends of desert spirits that tested travelers' resolve, while Alina tended to small wounds inflicted by the storm's fury. At one point, Jonathan caught a glimpse of Malik beyond the swirling sand, a dark silhouette moving with practiced ease, his mercenaries scattered but determined. The storm, it seemed, was an equalizer, a force that threatened all who dared challenge the desert's dominion. As the first pale rays of sunlight pierced the dissipating clouds, the team emerged cautiously. The landscape was unrecognizable. Tracks had vanished, landmarks buried beneath fresh dunes. The desert had erased their path, forcing them to start anew. Jonathan surveyed the transformed terrain, the weight of the storm's lessons settling deep within him. The desert was not merely a backdrop for their quest, but a living entity, demanding respect and humility. "We survive," Jonathan said quietly, meeting Lila's steady gaze, "and we keep moving." The storm had tested their endurance and shattered their certainty, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond among them. Together, they would face whatever the desert had left to throw, undaunted and resolute. As they packed their gear and prepared to press onward, Jonathan glanced once more at the horizon, where the lost oasis awaited beneath the ever-watchful desert moon. Their journey was far from over, but with the storm behind them, hope flickered a newer fragile flame against the vast, unforgiving sands. Unbeknownst to them, Moloch's eyes burned with renewed fury. The storm had cost him as well, but his resolve remained unshaken. The endless chase continued, each step bringing them closer to destiny, where myths and reality would collide beneath the desert's eternal sky. And so, beneath the gathering storm and the clearing skies that followed, the pulse of the desert beat on unceasing, mysterious and merciless. The desert sky darkened abruptly as an ominous wind began to rise, carrying with it the first gritty whispers of an approaching sandstorm. Jonathan Crane, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes, felt the familiar tightening in his chest, a mixture of respect and fear for the desert's unpredictable wrath. He turned to the others, urgency threading his voice. "Storm's coming. We need to find shelter, now." Leila Hassan was already moving, her instincts honed from years living with the shifting sands. "There's a rocky outcrop just ahead," she called out, pointing toward a jagged ridge breaking the monotony of the dunes. "If we can make it there, we'll have some protection." The team quickened their pace, but the desert answered with fury. The wind picked up velocity, whipping sand into stinging sheets that lashed at exposed skin and stung their eyes despite goggles and scarves. The world dissolved into a blur of ochre and white, the sun blotted out by a swirling storm of particles. Voices became hoarse shouts, barely heard over the relentless roar. Marcus Finch stumbled, shielding his face with a sleeve. "I've studied deserts for decades," he rasped, "but nothing prepares you for this." Elena Cruz barked orders, her calm steadiness cutting through the chaos. "Keep moving, stay close, watch your footing." Jonathan's mind raced, assessing risks and possibilities. The rocky crevice Lila had spotted was now their only hope. He grabbed her arm, steering the group toward the jagged shelter. Sand scoured their clothing, and each breath drew grit into their lungs. The storm's howl was a living beast, relentless and unforgiving. Reaching the shelter was a battle against the storm itself. Leela slipped first, but Jonathan caught her, steadying both of them. One by one, they scrambled into the narrow recess between the rocks. Once inside, the roaring wind was muffled but still omnipresent, a constant reminder of their precarious situation. The crevice was tight and dark, cool compared to the blazing desert outside. Jonathan leaned against the stone wall, muscles trembling from exertion and cold creeping in despite the heat. Leela knelt beside him, her face streaked with sweat and dust, eyes bright with determination. "We'll get through this," she said softly, gripping his shoulder. Marcus, usually the skeptic, allowed a rare show of vulnerability. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're here, Jonathan." Elena moved among them, checking for injuries, her hands steady despite the tension. "Minor abrasions," she reported. "Nothing serious, but we need to keep hydrated and calm." Hours passed like this, the storm battering the crevice, sand seeping through cracks, whispering stories of the desert's eternal watch. The team huddled close, exchanging quiet words and shared glances that spoke of unspoken fears and hopes. Jonathan studied their faces, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavier on his shoulders. The storm began to lose its fury slowly, the wind dropping to a low moan. Outside, the sky lightened, revealing the battered but unbroken landscape. Jonathan stepped to the crevice's mouth, breathing deeply the gritty air. The desert was harsh, indifferent, but it had spared them this time. Lila emerged, her expression weary but resolute. "We survived," she said simply. Marcus nodded, a newfound respect shining in his eyes. Nature's power is something you can never fully conquer, only endure. Jonathan looked out over the sand dunes, the sun dipping closer to the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of amber and crimson. "This storm was a test," he said quietly, "and we passed. But our journey isn't over, not by a long shot." As the team gathered their scattered gear and prepared to move forward, a renewed sense of unity bound them tighter than ever. The desert's relentless hostility had forged their resolve, reminding them that survival depended not just on strength or knowledge, but on trust, perseverance, and the indomitable human spirit. Jonathan's gaze lingered on the fading light. Underneath the desert moon, the endless chase continued, but now they faced it together, ready for whatever trials awaited beyond the dunes. The storm had tested their limit sand. They had emerged stronger. But beyond the horizon, shadows stirred, and Moloch's pursuit grew ever closer. The desert held its breath, waiting to see who would endure the final reckoning. The storm had finally spent its wrath. As the swirling sands began to settle, a heavy silence hung over the desert, broken only by the soft whisper of a gentle breeze. Dr. Jonathan Crane squinted through the dissipating haze, his breath catching as a vision materialized ahead of verdant sanctuary amid the endless sea of dunes. The oasis revealed itself slowly at first, a glimmer of turquoise water flickering beneath the harsh sunlight, palms swaying softly as if beckoning the weary travelers forward. The contrast was so stark that for a moment, Jonathan felt as if he had stumbled into a mirage born of desperate hope. But no, this was real. The oasis, with its lush greenery and sparkling pool, was no longer a whispered legend, but a living testament to ancient secrets and the promise of immortality. By the stars, Leela breathed, stepping cautiously toward the water's edge. Her intense eyes scanned the landscape, alert to any sign of danger, yet her voice betrayed a rare softness. "It's more beautiful than I ever imagined." Jonathan approached, his boots crunching softly on the cracked earth softened by recent rain. He knelt, dipping his hands into the cool, clear water. The sensation was a balm to his parched skin, a reminder that life could flourish where he had only seen desolation before. Around him, the team began to stir. Marcus Finch adjusted his glasses, his usual skeptical demeanor replaced by awe as he crouched beside intricate stone carvings, half buried beneath creeping vines. "These inscriptions, they're unlike anything I've seen," he murmured, his finger tracing the ancient script. This oasis was clearly revered by a civilization far older than we anticipated. Alina Cruz moved among them, her calm presence tending to scraped knees and sunburned faces. "We're lucky to have survived the storm," she said quietly, her medical kit now resting on the soft grass. "This place saved us, even if only for a moment." Jonathan stood, taking in the panoramic view. The oasis was a fragile jewel cradled by the desert's harsh embrace. Ancient stone structures, weathered but majestic, peeked through the foliage, their purpose and stories waiting to be unlocked. Yet, beneath the beauty lurked a palpable mysticism, a sense that the oasis was not merely a haven but a guardian of deeper truths. "We must move carefully," Jonathan warned, eyes narrowing as he scanned the horizon. "Malik won't stop until he claims this place for himself." Leela nodded, her hands tightening on her walking staff. "We'll make camp here. Rest, recover, and prepare. The desert won't give up its secrets easily, nor will our enemies." As the team set about establishing a temporary refuge beneath the shade of towering palms, Jonathan felt an unfamiliar peace settle over him. The oasis was more than a destination. It was a symbol of resilience, hope, and the eternal dance between life and death. But with twilight approaching, he knew their time was limited. The oasis, like a precious dream, could vanish as quickly as it appeared. In the quiet moments that followed, Jonathan allowed himself to reflect. Each challenge overcome had brought them closer to this moment filled with peril and possibility. The ancient temple's secrets, the relentless chase, the mirages that tested their minds all had led here. Yet the greatest trial was yet to come. The desert moon would soon rise, casting its ghostly light over the oasis, illuminating the final showdown between ambition and sacrifice, between mortal desire and eternal legacy. Jonathan's gaze lifted skyward, determination igniting in his eyes. Underneath this desert moon, he would face his destiny. But first, they would rest. For the dawn would bring the next chapter of their journey, one where survival and truth would be tested in equal measure. The oasis had revealed itself, radiant and alive. Now, Jonathan and his team had to prove themselves worthy of its secrets before darkness claimed it once more. The desert night was alive with a restless energy as the silver glow of the moon bathed the sands in an ethereal light. The oasis shimmered faintly nearby, a beacon of impossible beauty, fragile and flickering as if aware of the impending storm of human will that approached it. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood firm, his breath steady despite the pounding of his heart, eyes locked on the figure emerging from the shadows. Malik al-Sayed, his rival and relentless adversary, stepped forward with a calculated menace, the scars on his face deepening under the moonlight, a living testament to battles fought and won through ruthlessness. The stillness broke with the snap of a drawn blade, the desert air thickening with the charged anticipation of the final confrontation. Jonathan moved first, his years of experience guiding his swift, precise strikes. Malik parried with brutal force, each clash of their weapons echoing against the ancient stones of the oasis's perimeter. Around them, the desert whispered with the voices of history, the sand shifting as if to witness the culmination of a chase that had spanned endless dunes and harrowing trials. Leela Hassan and Dr. Marcus Finch watched from a distance, their breaths held tight in their chests. Leela's eyes burned with fierce loyalty, every muscle tensed to intervene if needed. Marcus's skepticism had long since given way to awe, his mind racing to decipher the implications of this moment. The mercenaries Malik commanded lurked nearby, shadows ready to strike. Yet none dared interfere as the duel unfolded like a deadly dance beneath the desert moon. The fight was more than physical. It was a battle of wills, of ideologies. Malik's greed and ambition drove him to seize the oasis's secret power, believing in domination and control. Jonathan, fueled by a complex mixture of guilt, hope, and the desire to protect, fought to safeguard a legacy that transcended mere immortality. Each blow exchanged was heavy with the weight of their histories, their dreams, and their fears. As the combat reached a fever pitch, Malik launched a vicious assault, a flurry of strikes that threatened to overwhelm Jonathan. Yet, in that critical moment, Jonathan's mind cleared. He saw beyond the fight the true cost of the oasis's power, the corruption it promised, and the sacrifice it demanded. With a surge of strength born from resolve rather than desperation, Jonathan disarmed Malik, forcing him back, but the battle was not yet over. Jonathan reached toward the ancient mechanism hidden within the oasis, the source of the illusion that cloaked its existence from the world. With a resolute breath, he triggered its destruction. The oasis shimmered violently, the illusion unraveling like a tapestry in a storm. Malik's triumphant snarl faltered as the shimmering waters began to recede, the lush greenery dissolving into the barren, unforgiving sands. The mercenaries, sensing their prize slipping away, retreated into the shadows, their leaders' ambitions shattered. Jonathan turned to Lila and Marcus, the weight of his choice settling over him like the desert night. He had relinquished the chance for personal immortality, embracing instead a deeper understanding that true legacy was forged not through eternal life, but through the sacrifices made for something greater than oneself. As the first light of dawn began to pale the horizon, Jonathan stood beneath the desert moon, transformed. The oasis was gone, a secret once again hidden beneath the endless dunes, preserved by his courage and sacrifice. The desert whispered its ancient song, a reminder that some mysteries were meant to endure beyond the reach of time, carried forever in the hearts of those brave enough to chase them. But even as the light grew, a shadow lingered in Malik's eyes, a promise that this confrontation was only one chapter in an endless chase beneath the desert moon. Jonathan took a deep breath, feeling the cool desert breeze against his skin. The journey was far from over, but tonight, beneath the vast expanse of stars and sand, he had won more than a battle. He had reclaimed his soul. The desert night stretched infinitely above them, a vast canvas of stars shimmering coldly against the inky blackness. Beneath the silver gaze of the desert moon, the lost oasis, ethereal and fragile, shimmered like a mirage, more real and more fleeting than ever. Dr. Jonathan Crane stood at its heart. The soft whisper of the night breeze, carrying the scent of blooming desert flora and the distant call of nocturnal creatures. Around him, the ruins of an ancient temple cradled the secret that had obsessed him for so long, the promise of immortality now weighing heavily on his conscience. His breath came steady but tense as he faced Malik al-Sayed, the ruthless shadow who had dogged his steps since the journey began. Malik's dark eyes gleamed with greed and hunger, his scarred face twisted into a cruel smile. Around them, the mercenaries lay in wait, their fingers twitching near weapons, the air taut with the imminence of violence. Jonathan Malik said, his voice low and venomous, "You don't have to do this. The power of the oasis is ours for the taking. Together, we could rule the black market, control artifacts beyond imagination." Jonathan's gaze did not waver. "Some things are not meant to be owned, Malik. Not by you, not by anyone." His fingers brushed the ancient stone pedestal before him, where inscriptions glowed faintly under the moonlight. "This secret has been guarded for millennia for a reason. The cost is too high." Leela Hassan stood nearby, her intense eyes locked on the inscriptions Marcus Finch frantically deciphered. The historian's usually skeptical expression was softened by awe and urgency as he translated the ancient warnings aloud. "The oasis's immortality is bound by a curse. To claim it without the proper reverence invites destruction, not salvation." A tense silence fell, broken only by the distant howl of the desert wind. Jonathan's mind raced, memories of lost comrades flashing vividly. The weight of his past failures, the faces of those who had perished in his earlier expedition, pulled at his heart. But this moment demanded clarity. Malik snarled, stepping forward, his hand reaching for a concealed weapon. "You'll regret this choice, Crane. Immortality is the ultimate prize, and you're throwing it away." Jonathan's voice was calm but resolute. Not a prize, a prison. With deliberate movements, Jonathan activated the ancient mechanism embedded within the temple's core. The ground trembled as gears and levers, long silent, groaned to life. A radiant surge of light erupted, flooding the chamber with a blinding aura that enveloped the entire oasis. The air thrummed with energy, ancient power awakening only to be undone. Moloch's mercenaries shouted in confusion and rage, their grip on weapons faltering as the luminous force expanded. The oasis's waters shimmered, then began dissolving into mist, the verdant life fading like a dream slipping away. The desert itself seemed to hold its breath. In that moment, beneath the desert moon's silent witness, Jonathan felt a profound release, a surrender not of weakness but of wisdom. The price of ambition had been paid, not with eternal life, but with the salvation of a secret that should never fall into corrupt hands. As the light dimmed and the ruins settled back into quietude, Malik snarled one last curse before retreating into the shadows, his dreams of power shattered. Jonathan turned to his companions. Leela's fierce gaze met his. Marcus's eyes glistened with newfound respect, and even the desert seemed to exhale a sigh of relief. The first pale light of dawn crept over the horizon, and with it, the oasis vanished completely, leaving only the endless sands and the whisper of secrets carried on the wind. Jonathan stood alone at the edge of the desert, the weight of sacrifice heavy, but the burden of legacy lighter than ever before. "It's over," Leela said softly, stepping beside him. "For now." Jonathan nodded, eyes fixed on the rising sun. The chase never truly ends, but some treasures, some truths, are meant to remain hidden. And beneath the desert moon, as the day awakened, Jonathan Crane embraced a new purpose, not seeking immortality, but protecting the fragile legacies etched in the sands of time. His journey had transformed him, the endless chase now a testament to sacrifice, salvation, and the enduring mystery of the desert's heart. Yet, as the wind stirred the sands, a faint whisper seemed to echo a promise that beneath the vast desert sky, myths and reality would forever dance beneath the watchful gaze of the desert moon.